Desert Island Discs on 91.3
Capital FM. 91.3 Capital FM, Desert Island Disc Cities, and yes, you are well tuned in on this wonderful Sunday evening to get a feel of the life and times of our guest this evening. Now, this evening, Bishop Eddy is what I'll call you for the purpose of this show. But for the benefit of our listeners, the full name is Bishop Edward Stanley Engena-Maitum.
Correct.
And the way we Ugandans also love name dropping, I can as well add the Obote name. So that you can create perspective.
Yeah.
Good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I was hoping you'd look for a better pronunciation of Engena-Maitum.
Engena.
You sounded a bit too...
I wanted to pronounce every syllable in this one.
I think it must have apostrophe on top. So Engena-Maitum.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I love the way the Americans pronounce my surname. Somehow the T is an R. So you can imagine Kasyate.
Kasyate. What about the British?
Well, you don't have to go there. They'll just kill it all together. Yeah. Well, here on the desert island, having a guest like yourself, a guy that we have known for the most part really as Obote's son, and anything else, a church minister.
Yeah.
We're glad to have you here so that you can tell us exactly who you are beyond these tags that we've put onto you. When were you born? Where were you born? Of course, we now know to who, but you may well just drop that as well.
Thank you, Simon. I'm born in 1966, and precisely on May 11th. That makes me approximately 49 years. I intend, by the grace of God, to jubilate next year, to enter the half century. Oh, yes. And of course, I thank God that I've come this far. I've seen a lot of my friends drop off for various reasons. But I bless God that I'm in good health and I'm here. Born in Mulago Hospital.
Oh.
Yes.
That's strange. A president's son. Because 1966, your dad
born
was...
in Mulago Hospital. It was the hospital of choice. I don't know if you recall at one time there was an assassination attempt at Lugogo, and he was hospitalized in Mulago.
And he recovered from there.
Recovered, and of course, yes, my mother, as you have mentioned, and father have a strong political background. Of course, my father is known in this country.
Words fail you on how to start announcing
yes.
Colossus of a name.
Yes. He has been in the presidency twice. Has been in the politics of Uganda before independence.
And he continues to influence the policies of today, even posthumously.
True. I mean, I don't know a day that a radio station or a newspaper or a television outlet, for one reason, good or bad, not mention his name. He lives as if he's just around the corner. And of course, he passed on in 2005 in South Africa. In
the course of the program, of course, we'll get to have a feel from your side as a son to this man, how it feels like getting all this brand visibility, negative or positive, as you may want to put it. But let's get down to your childhood. Of course, one would imagine born in the palace, so to speak, gives you all the right and privileges of everything that you want. But you may wish to share with us what kind of childhood you had between Dr. Bote and Mary Obote. There's how many of you and what position are you in that family?
I'm the second born. We are 4 brothers. I don't have a very clear recollection of the very early years, particularly here in Uganda. There's no clear thing that... I remember a lady called Kirkham. I'm told she was the wife of the prison's commissioner then. I think it was called Bill Kirkham. At the time, was a white man. Had a kindergarten. And so that's where I begin to position myself as a young child.
How was this kindergarten?
Well, it was mixed. I could see. I'm seeing. I can't remember the location sadly, but I know that she was very good with children, and it was a joy to always be out there in the kindergarten, and that's my strongest recollection. The other thing I remember was a 2-seater car with no roof, a coupe. That's the kind of thing I remember. Of course. The next episode that is clear and vivid in my mind is as we're growing up in that time, we had to travel somewhere. I now know today we traveled to Kenya, and we traveled in a hush-hush manner. I didn't know what was happening. Of course, that was 1971 coup. That would place me around the age of 4. But something interesting is when we went to this so-called country or place, I recall we traveled back. And of course, now I know what happened is while in Kenya, having escaped, the Kenyan government, I don't know what was the basis, repatriated us back.
To Uganda.
Uganda. So the special branch of the day, I remember these cars, I think they were called 1600 something SSS type of vehicle. And we were drove back with my mother, and we were brought back into Uganda Of course, my father was in Singapore at the time. Was somewhere between there, and we were brought back into Uganda. I recall we were put in a place which now I know as, I think, a police station in Malaba, and then brought, I think, to Naguru, to another police station, and then ultimately we were brought to command post to meet General Idi Amin.
This is where is command post now. Now you know where is command. Somewhere in Kololo.
Somewhere in Kololo. And the photo is there. It's a very interesting photo where.
And all this while you're a little boy, of course, playing around.
A little boy and not really understand what is going on, but you have an apprehensive mother. So your mother is absolutely apprehensive. And of course, your heartbeat can tell something is wrong. But then, of course, that event moves on. And the next thing we find ourselves is in another country again called Tanzania. And that is now in 71 where we actually now went to Tanzania.
And found Dad there. Or
and
Dad
then Dad, I don't know who found the other. Dad appears and home, we look like families back together, but settings are new and life is new.
There's no police officers?
No, it is there, very much so. It was, I think it was a great deed on the part of the late Julius Nyerere, who was a brother they were brothers with my late father.
Really?
So to him, he took him as the sitting president of Uganda, irrespective of the coup. So he gave him a state lodge, and it was guarded by the field force unit, and it had bodyguards from the Mwalimu's protection unit, and so it was like a state lodge. I mean, the standards remained exactly the same. It would have been difficult for us as children to immediately realize that something had changed.
Except the location. But tell me, growing up in the Oboti homestead, I mean, did you ever have time to have a conversation like you do with your children now? I mean, later on you'll be telling us how you have children now. Was he a normal daddy? Was mommy a normal mommy?
To some extent, a blessing in disguise. The coup of 71 gave us a lot of time together because he was now practically on a daily basis at home. There's no office to report to, strictly between his bedroom and the sitting room, occasionally walking outside. And that gave us a lot of time with him. I mean, he was there all the time.
Tell us about his personality.
Very calm in terms of patient with the children. He would give you time to express yourself. He was always available for input, reachable, allow you to express yourself deeply and then slowly bring you to speed on what direction should be or not. Could also be very firm on the things that he believed in. He loved education, loved reading, loved books. There's a game called Scrabble. It was played from morning to evening. Always empowering themselves with words. So,
who would you play these games with?
A lot of people whom I would just call uncles. Uncles, uncle who, because uncles came from everywhere. One of the uncles I recall, two actually, who I know practically there all the time, one was called Mzee Toyota, but his name was Mutoyera, the father of General Mugisha Muntu. Now, so that is an uncle that I would be by all the time. That's the uncle I knew all the time, would always be there. He was
Why
there.
do you call him Zay Toyota? Is it because of the car he drove or because you couldn't pronounce
say the word Mutoyera? So the best way it's called Mzee Toyota. Yeah, so that's how
the other uncle?
He was a man from Gulu. He was a major by the name of Peter Ola. So these two are very prominent. But not to mention that everybody else, the bodyguards. Of course, there were those who came out of Uganda, who are also still there. There were a lot of people, a lot of families who would come to visit. Some were staying with us and they would have their meetings. And
so you were always receiving visitors in and out.
That is the lifestyle I've grown up. I don't know any other life.
The more famous of the Boti children is Jimmy Makena, because of course of his now very active political involvement and the fact that he was by your father, especially in the evening of his life with dreadlocks. I mean, you couldn't miss that kind of figure.
Yes.
How was the sibling relationship, you, Akaki, Akena, and the other guy whose name escapes me all the time?
Yeah, you're talking of Benjamin Opeto. He was born in Tanzania in 1976.
Okay, so he's this much younger guy.
He's a much younger guy. There's a big gap between us and him.
So Akena comes right after you?
Right after me. And he comes way after. He was a baby all through Tanzania. So there's a big gap between us and him. And so our relationship with him is a bit distant in the event that we didn't grow up with him directly. But for much of our time in Tanzania, we were very close because we were a team. I mean, our age differences were between 1 and 2 years each. Either way, and we grew up very close up to the time of Of course, 1979, when the war in Uganda broke out between Tanzania, and ultimately 1980, where we were all back in Uganda. And that's where our separation began. In the terms of we started now going to different schools and ended up in different countries. And that continued
throughout much of
much of our lives. So what happens is from around 79, 80, a separation began. And
so you were in the same schools while in exile in Tanzania?
In Tanzania, we were all in the same school. Primary, we started at, I think, Bunge Primary School, and then moved on to International School of Tanzania, which we were in up to the time of our return to Uganda. So we were together, grew up together, lived together, played together, ran together, did all the things, fought together, did all the things young people would do as siblings, and that's how it was up to that point. Yeah.
You play your first song.
Thank you. I would have loved to go absolutely gospel, because that's where my persuasion is today. But because we're coming back from history, there's a song that is rich, and it's called Top of the World.
Why did you choose that song?
I'm a person who believes strongly in perception, perspective, vision. Vision carries people from one place to the other. Vision
gives you wings even when you're unable to fly.
Yes, it can. And having been in exile twice, I don't wish anyone in exile. It's when you lose identity, when you lose state, you learn to ask a lot of questions. Why, what, when, who, why.
I can imagine what it could have been for you, because many people were in exile, yes, but you were not only just in exile, but you were coming from a position where you are on top of the country where you come from, on top of the world, and all of a sudden, not there at all. We'll play this song and we'll return more of the life and times of Bishop Edward Stanley Engena-Maitum. Hope this time I pronounce it well.
Thank you. You're getting better.
Very good.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
Such a feeling's coming over me. There is wonder in most everything I see. Not a cloud in the sky, got the sun in my eyes, and I won't be surprised if it's a dream. Everything I want the world to be is now coming true, especially for me. And the reason is clear, it's because you are here. You're the nearest thing to heaven that I've seen. I'm on the top of the world, looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I've found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world. Something in the wind has learned my name, and it's telling me that things are not the same. In the leaves on the trees and the touch of the breeze, there's a pleasing sense of happiness for me. There is only one wish on my mind. When this day is through, I hope that I will find that tomorrow will be just the same for you and me. All I need will be mine if you are here. I'm on the top of the world, looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world. I'm on the top of the world, looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world.
91.3 Capital FM, Desert Island Disc Series, and yes, with me in the studio is Dr. Milton Obote's son, Bishop Eddy they call him, but the full name is Edward Stanley Engena-Maitum. When you returned to Uganda after all these years away, did you have any flashes of nostalgic remembrance and the places and people? Was the kindergarten owner still around to say hello?
No, she was not, and I don't recall seeing her then. However, I had just small glimpses of the house in Kololo. This is a place I seem to have been before. So there were those touch and go, language, food.
Predominantly, what language were you speaking?
English. We speak English in our home.
Not Luganda.
No,
Not
our late
Luganda.
father would speak English. To our mother would speak to him in English. The ruling language in the home was English. Of course, in Tanzania, we picked up Kiswahili. So we're back in Uganda, and
then Dad becomes rare again. He starts running.
all of a sudden he starts going out again. You hardly see him. And of course, we were taken to boarding school. That's where we go to Namasgali College.
The three of you.
All three of us went to Namasgali College. Ben was too young.
What was the choice of Namasgali College? They were
I don't know how they arrived to it, but we found ourselves there.
And any regrets that you possibly would have done better in Lango College?
No. I think Namasgali brought me to expose me to a lot of things which I didn't know. Probably it was also my age. I was coming to puberty, and so
you needed some kind of adrenaline rush.
Yeah. So Namasgali seemed to be the place. More so, I loved Namasgali for something that the way the father dealt with issues. They had a reef system there where you accumulate. You go to court. I love that. And you
high reefs.
And you defend yourself. And if you've done any faults, and you go onto the notice board and you see how your penalties are accumulating, and you have a choice: go to court and defend yourself, or go
and face the repercussions of your sins.
Of the sticks, yes.
How would you best describe yourself around that time? As an introvert, extrovert, or a very obstinate little boy who is out to achieve?
Or a maverick.
Or a maverick, so to speak.
I'm a very social person, and I'm very outgoing.
You didn't have these trappings of power around you. I mean, your bodyguards at school, you chose your friends selectively. I mean, who are some of your contemporaries in Namasgali who possibly can attest to you being there?
That would not describe me in any way. All my friends and my entire lifetime, all my life, I'm very down to earth. I live with people, around people. I'm extremely social.
Who would I ask from Namasgali if they recall times with you?
Gosh, there's so many. There's Edward Kisuche. Edward Kisuche was my classmate, and at one point I think we were courting the same girlfriend.
Oh, that's very interesting. Sharing is caring.
Not sharing, courting. And of course, we had our own differences then in that, but we ended up being good friends. So Edward was my classmate. I think it's someone who can be reached. I think he's also in the media. You know Edward, yeah. So I'm quite social. I've always been social. I'm outgoing. I think it's just my character.
You were studying, yes, but did you have an inclination as to what you wanted to end up as? Did you look at your dad's job, for example, and admire it and say, yes, one day I want to be president of the Republic of Uganda, just like that?
I could see what he was doing, that he had sacrificed his life. And I could see how honest he was in the things he did, and how motivated he was when it came to rights and giving people hope, and fighting for the betterment of and the livelihood of the Ugandans, and took to him as a person to achieve that. And in my immediate person, I did not. I could always see that maybe sometime I would end up probably doing something like that, because I'm very compassionate. I'm really compassionate. I have concern. I feel
That is not usually a character carried by people born with silver spoons in their mouth like you.
No, I remember I was a young person here in Kisementi, and there's a young boy who used to they used to sell pork on sticks. So he wasn't doing any selling, but people used to use him to go and buy and send him around. Young boy. And I said, what are you doing here? He told me, I'm an orphan, I have nowhere to go, no parents. I adopted him, and I was not of age to adopt, whether legally or otherwise. And I made it my burden. I didn't even have the income. First found a boarding school, looked for the means, and I ensured he was paid. It was paid, and he went back to school. Then I got my friends together, and we said, this man, we must help him and change him.
Forward, where is this guy?
Well, something interesting happens in 2005. I've come for the first time back to Uganda, and I'm just walked out of the house in Kololo. The house is, of course, they're mourning. My father's body is lying in state, and I'm just walking out to look for a vehicle. I'm staying at the Speak Hotel, and some fellow walks to me, says, excuse me, I'm your son. I looked at him, I said, my son? From where? Of course, I didn't want to sound disarming. Just wanted him to talk. And he says, do you recall that in Kisementi, there was a young boy who you picked up, so he looked up, it's me, I'm now grown up. I'm now fully grown up. I have a home, I have a family, and I'm doing things for myself. I'm fully employed. So first I couldn't remember I did that. Going away for over that time, I totally forgot.
My goodness.
So he's grown up. He's got a life. He's got an identity, and he's calling me father.
What was wrong with your dad's security? How would they allow a first son to go around marauding in places like Cementi and all of that?
It was very difficult to control me. First and foremost, we grew up in Tanzania in a very liberal society, and then more so, you wouldn't put me in that. I would get on a motorcycle. If you heard of anybody who rode a motorcycle in this city, it was me.
Wow.
I would go anywhere. I would be in Jinja. I would be in Entebbe. I would go.
Partying away or just checking out
friends? Both. Doesn't matter.
I was talking about partying away. I know now you're a bishop, but sometimes it's always very important.
I had a life before, and I'm not ashamed. And
absolutely.
I had a life, and by God's grace, today I'm born again. I'm a child of God, but I had a life before, and I lived it.
You admired so many things about your dad, and one thing is for sure that he loved his bottle. Do you love it as well?
At that time, I think I did my drinking also. I smoked. I drank. All these things, by the way, I actually inherited them in Namasagali. I actually learned to drink and to smoke in Namasagali.
So you must have learned so much more from Namasagali than just exactly what to do then. Who are your smoking buddies then?
I mentioned a few.
Edward Kisuchi.
But then one day, my late father called us and said, listen, if you have to drink it here. There are the drinks, go and pick your drink.
You must have run like kids in a
candy shop. We froze.
Oh, really?
Was it a trap or was it sincere? So nobody went. Nobody there.
Maximum restraint.
Don't know what it is. Is it a trap?
What was your worry? That you would spunk you?
Don't know what was going to happen.
Bishop Ed, you will play your next song, and then from there we'll look at where life takes you after 1985.
I'm looking at songs which would have come back from historical perspective. It's something inside so strong. I know I can make it, and I'm going to do it anyway.
The beat is more like Lovers Rock.
Something inside so strong. I know that I can make it.
Very good. And indeed, I have it here in my music jukebox. Let's play it for our listeners to enjoy, especially listening to your life story. But what's that something so strong inside that you think you can do? That we'll discuss when we are out of this.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
The higher you build your barriers, the taller I become. Father, you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can deny me, you can decide to turn your face away. No matter, 'cause there's something inside so strong. Know that I can make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. Thought that my pride was gone. Oh no, there's something inside so strong. Whoa, whoa, something inside so strong. The more you refuse to hear my voice, louder I will sing. You hide behind walls of Jericho. Your lies will come tumbling. Deny my place in time. You squander wealth that's mine. My light will shine so brightly it will blind you. Because there's something inside so strong. I know that I can make it, but you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. Oh no, there's something inside so strong. Oh, oh, oh. Something inside so strong.
91.3 Capital FM, Desert Island, this city is, and yes, with me in the studio, Bishop Edward Stanley, Engena-Maitum, son to Dr. Apple Milton Obote and Miriam. 1985-86, Dad loses his position as president of Uganda, again in almost similar circumstances. Where were you when that happened?
I'll back up a bit. I didn't stay in Namasgali for too long. I was there for about a year or two. I used to suffer from bronchitis, asthma. When I came back to Uganda, the attacks were far more severe.
And yet you smoked.
Oh yes, that was also true. And so what happens is I had gone to Nairobi, and we have family friends there, and my parents talked to them to consider the prospect of whether I could find another school.
Who are these family friends?
We have the family of the Mwendwas, who was the first African Chief Justice, Kitili Mwendwa, who was a classmate with my late father. And of course,
he talks about him in the interview.
Yes. He passed on as well, but the wife, Mrs. Nivia Mwendwa, who is a bond friend to my mother, so they were part of them. Of course, there was also my late uncle, who was called Ingi, married to my aunt Uni, who were also in the Nairobi, Kenya, and they had already taken Jimmy and my cousin Jack out of Namasagali to Kenya. So when I got to Nairobi for this period, they are concerned. So they tried to take me to schools with the hope that I may get better medical attention than Namasagali, because they took me to numerous schools, the best schools in Kenya.
And still you failed to fit.
I turned them down. I didn't enter. They would just take me to see and try. Of course, in my heart, I was determined that I would not agree. I'm going back home. Going back to Namasagali. But eventually, after I found they were determined, I also
gave in.
I gave in. So I ended up in Kenya. So I go to a school called Imani. Imani is where I did my O-levels. I finished Imani, and then I left Imani and I went to UK. And so 85 finds me. I've been in UK from around 1983. 84, 85. And I'd come for holidays, I recall. 85, that's when I was told about that baby. My baby was born. I actually went to the hospital. I didn't see the baby.
You had a baby before you left.
While I was in the United Kingdom, as a student, I would come for holidays.
And you met this girl, and then you had this baby.
I have this child, and so they've told me there's a child who's been born at Mulago Hospital. This was around June. So I go to the hospital to see the child, and they don't allow me to see the child.
Why?
I don't know.
You're the president's son. This guy know who you are.
They tell me the child has been crying, and there are a lot of aunties, and I just don't know. I don't see the child. And I'm also like, there's no big deal. This time will be there to see a child. Child can be seen. In fact, I'm going to Nairobi. I was actually heading to Nairobi. We're going to Mombasa with some friends of mine.
No.
We as students, we used to put our money together and buy second-hand vehicles in the United Kingdom. Then drive them while we're there. Then send them back for the holiday and sell them here for a premium. And then go back.
And buy others. You guys were quite a businessman.
Yes. I was with Patrick Bitature and Ken Kitariko. Yeah. So we had.
This
we were together.
Guy has had the business mind from way back.
Way back. God. Way
so you,
back.
Ken and Patrick were on your way back.
We had gone to Mombasa to clear a vehicle. Yes. And that's where the coup happened.
And you were in Mombasa.
I was in Mombasa. So somebody calls me from the switchboard and State House and says, something's happening. It's not clear, but we're in our stations. We're in where we should be, and I think you should be concerned. But on that information, I said, well, we need to go back. So we leave Mombasa, coming to Nairobi. So we're driving back to Nairobi. The coup is ongoing. By the time we get to Nairobi, we hear it's now news. By evening, they say that it is the government has been taken over. And of course, that began a new chapter.
Why did you drop your friends, Patrick and Ken?
We departed. That was our goodbye. They, of course, proceeded to Uganda, and I began a new life again in a tent in Kenya.
Why didn't you go to Kitili's house?
Kitili, initially, that's where my father went to. I was in a hotel at one point, but eventually we had to move to a house. But the house was, I think, 1 or 2 bedrooms, which was only there for my mother. My father had already flown to Zambia with his entourage. So myself and my brothers, all of us, Tony, Jimmy, all of us, we bought a big tent and put in the garden. So with other people. So we are in that tent.
What was in your mind? What was going on in your mind? Did you think it would be business as usual and Dad would come back to Uganda as president? Or did you think now, we finished?
Conflict in the mind. Yes. What does this mean? What does it translate to be? What may happen? What may not happen?
Did you fear for your lives?
not really. But just the thought that you're not going back. You want to go back. Things have changed. Let me tell you, when you leave, wake up in the morning one day and you just leave with the clothes on your body, it is a very difficult thing to reconcile yourself to.
Especially if you've been living.
Yes, in affluence or in a higher place or in a better place it is a very difficult thing to reconcile. Even a photograph, those things you assume, just take for granted in the morning and no more, and you start from zero.
Must have been a very depressing
It is a very difficult thing, and that's why I feel very strongly that things like that need to be addressed, that there should never be
a moment for
anyone
to
have to leave their country and be considered as a second-class citizen anywhere else.
At that point, didn't it even bother you that possibly your dad caused this to himself?
I had a very different opinion because I had a lot of friends, I've told you, and my friends were in different places and in all kinds of places, including the security. From their accounts and from what I had is all the way from northern Uganda up to Kampala, the coup could have been stopped. And there were men in boots on the ground who could have stopped it at different places. The only choice was to be at the cost of thousands of Ugandans. My late father actually told the chief of staff of the day, if you are going to do that, let the first bullet be on me.
What?
Yes.
He said, let them come.
Let the first bullet be on me. And therefore they didn't. So they had ambushes set all the way from Nakasongola, Kafu, all the way up to northern, farther beyond, up to the point they would have come from.
Tito
were coming from. They would have been stopped in an inch. There was a whole training team of the Koreans here who had trained a big force for the security of Uganda at the time, who were in different fields, who had passed out. And the Korean general was saying, allow me to demonstrate why we've trained them.
And your dad said no.
No. And so people would blame him. Why would you do that? The armed forces are there to defend.
Did you ever ask him that question?
He said, I could have done that. In the interim, it would have made a lot of sense.
But
in the short run, in the long run, you would have created an enmity that you'd never resolve.
Bishop Edward Stanley Engena-Maitum, son of Dr. Milton Obote, very, very articulate in the way you share your life story. You find yourself in a tent with your brothers in exile in Nairobi, a situation you'd never wish for anybody or even for yourself to go through again. Which school did you conclude at? What did you study, and how did you carry on with life after your dad lost the presidency?
As I said, I was in the UK at the time of the coup. I went back, finished my A-levels, and then I was back into Kenya.
Now, how was this guy able to pay for your school fees? Remember, he was not...
No, that's where the struggle comes in. I couldn't still stay in the UK. I couldn't continue in the UK because my father was not just an honest man, but a man of integrity. So life took a very difficult turn. Those years, let me say 20, from that 86 or 85, last 20 plus years was not easy.
Did you at one time, as the Obotes, fail to have a decent meal on the table?
Every aspect of your life takes a turn. It undergoes different scrutiny of the realities of the day. When I look back, I see just the grace of God. Nothing less and nothing than the grace of God that has preserved me to this very moment. I took a turn. I was drinking heavily. I was drinking out of misery, depression, and not knowing what tomorrow will hold and how to make a future. And you're being addressed on the face, spoken to, told, newspaper articles that he ran away with the bank accounts of the whole of Uganda, that they went with the Central Bank of Uganda. The articles in the newspaper that killing and different things. So
he killed hundreds of
yes,
thousands.
And everywhere you go, they say this is the son and these are the sons and this is the family. So going through that, whether it's emotional or whether psychological, or it's not easy. I know favors out there. You have to work it out, and you have to remain sane, remain sober. The greatest thing that happened to me, I met this man.
The worst point on the road to Damascus where
I met this Jesus who they used to talk about in a church, who they used to talk about in a book. But I met the person. I met this Jesus, and he began to talk to me where I've come from, where I need to go, and how I need to go there. Well, this was late 80s.
As a president's son, Did you ever get a moment to socialize with the fairer sex? You had the privilege and means and the looks.
I had many friends, male, female, I had many friends. As I mentioned to you, social. I was a very social person.
Were you also notorious? I mean, you must have gone around with a bit of a brigade of guys guarding you because, I mean, come on, you were a president's son.
Not really, but I had friends who were also in the security, which sometimes would look like probably I was going out with security, with people around me. But most of them would have been just my friends. People
who were socializing
with me. But
duty.
if you saw and looked in, you probably think maybe this fellow was walking around with security. But in most cases, I had lots of friends.
But how was it like going to a counter of a wonderful bar like City Bar? If you were there, wouldn't you have guys around you, waiting to get a free drink or two?
That was also there. So I think it's just a way of life to those who have and don't have. Sometimes I would also sit around and wait for somebody else to buy me a drink because you have to appreciate my parents were not fueling this.
Exactly.
I had to be enterprising. And so I did a lot of things. I did a lot of business. I had friends of mine used to have a shop here in Kisementi called Quick Service. Then he's still around. It's called Kaka Junior. Many people know him. The Ugandan Indians, and he was my very good friend, and together we did a lot of business. My parents would not fund or supply funds for this kind of lifestyle. That is out of the question. They'll tell you this is what a civil servant earns in a month. So if I give this to you as a pocket money, I expect you to run it for 3 months. Because you're not paying for rent, you're not paying for transport, you're not paying for water, you're not paying for electricity. So I tended to have a very enterprising mind in terms of earning and working and seeing how to make it work. And by God's grace, I did quite a lot of business then.
But Bishop Ed, I mean, yes, you failed to continue with your studies in the UK. Did you eventually get a qualification?
Yes, I did, and I've continued to do even now. I do online courses, and that's the only way that you bridge this gap. It was what I hope to do. So by God's grace, yes, I've been able to continue, and God has helped me to code myself with qualifications, and more so. Now I moved into the ministry. Wow. I became a minister of the gospel. No, did not become a bishop. I became a minister, and I served for many years until I was ordained as a bishop in 2004. That's when I was ordained as a bishop. So technically, I've now been a bishop for approximately 11 years.
11 years, yes.
Yes. Overseeing churches in a few countries in East and Central Africa.
Which how do you call it, congregation is this?
This is the Brighton Morning Star Ministry. It's a Pentecostal church.
Hinged where? In Nairobi?
Of course, our base was Kenya, but it now has roots within the entire region. I am a father today of 7 children.
Tremendous. Grandfather?
The oldest is 32. The youngest is 2. I'm also a grandfather of 4.
The oldest?
The oldest is 9. The youngest is currently 1. And there's one who's coming to term that my daughter is expecting later this year, her second child.
I say, Bishop Ed, if my listeners had the privilege of looking at you, no one would believe that you're a grandfather of a 9-year-old. Not at all. How gracefully you have aged certainly is a case for miraculous.
That Jesus I keep telling you about. If you haven't met him, I would love you that you do have that encounter.
Well, we'll play your next song, and perhaps, who knows, during that break I could meet him.
There is a gospel by Hillsongs. It's called Yes, Lord.
Yes, Lord by Hillsongs. A very inspirational song. I've listened to it, and now you're getting closer to making me meet that man that is
Jesus,
written about.
That Jesus.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
I'm trading my sorrows, I'm trading my shame, I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord, and I'm trading my sickness, I'm trading my pain, I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. We say yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. Well, I'm pressed but not crushed, persecuted, not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. I'm blessed beyond a curse, for his promise will endure, and
91.3 Capital FM, Desert Island citizen Bishop Edward Stanley Engena-Maitum. Very eloquent guy. I mean, yes, who says apples fall very far away from the mother tree. Fast forward, beyond the fact that you are a former president's son, two-time president, so to speak, beyond the fact that you're a bishop in ministry, beyond the fact that you're a grandfather and father, husband, mention it, you also think you can contribute positively to the growth of this country in more ways than I've just mentioned. And there's no doubt I'm beginning to read the word politics in your eyes. Am I right?
Yes, sir. You know, mankind, the human being, is created for a purpose. And the purpose is to contribute to humanity through the gifts and graces and ministries that you have. This contribution is a positive contribution, and when people are paid for the work they do, they reward you for your contribution. They reward you for what you have made available. So every man, every woman, wherever they are, have a purpose, and they do find their purpose, they contribute, whether it starts at a small nucleus or whether it is at a corporate level. But our objectives ultimately is to contribute to humanity. In that course, of course, that our welfare and well-being is also preserved and also protected. Now, coming from that background, here comes this man that you're addressing right now, and he's born in a political family. I've been born right through my entire life. It has been political. I have a political heritage. So I'm motivated, and I'm sitting around greats like Julius Nyerere. I'm sitting around Kenneth Kaunda. I'm sitting around men and women.
Bella.
Yeah, people whom I have privilege to access to stand around. And inside me also, I start looking, can I even stand on their shoulders? Can I go beyond where they have come from? Can I envisage myself taking a step beyond that? And so these thoughts were not birthed today or yesterday. I've had them all my life. I'm seeing myself, can I grow? And as you grow, I have voices speaking to me all the time. Say, but when will you stand up? Your parents are growing old. When will you take a position also and continue what they have done? What contribution will you also make? And obviously now my background, my experiences, I am now that vessel that has so much to contribute. Don't want to see anyone run to exile. Don't want to see one person, kill the other for any reason. There are many factors that are now driven, that actually form whom I am by virtue of my experiences. I believe I can contribute. The future and the well-being of this country, the beloved Mother Uganda. I believe that I have the credentials, I have the background, I have the experience, I have the different hats that can add value to this nation called Uganda.
In what position would you love to be? I mean, it's all about positions here. Let's not mince our words here.
There's an interesting Shona proverb. I don't know if you've ever heard it before. They say if you have to eat a rat, eat a big one. And I have been a shepherd in different roles, from 5 people, from 2 people. Under a tree, I've been shepherding people to numbers, to 100, to 1,000, to congregations that are now big. I'm still a shepherd. The platform is changing. It's now national. I'm running for president of the Republic of Uganda.
Say that again.
The platform has changed, but the shepherd is the same.
And so you're running for the president of Uganda.
Yes.
Now let's put it into perspective here. Jimmy Akena, your brother, is also eyeing the presidency of this republic.
Yes.
As a chairperson, president, and flag bearer for the Uganda People's Congress, which by all accounts is your family and, party.
Yes. First and foremost, we are all rivers, big rivers with destinies and purposes, and should be respected as so. Implying there's no rule that says he can't run, I can run, and who can run. These rivers could merge or could separate. But ultimately, they are rivers on their own, full of life, full of purpose, full of destiny. They are rich rivers which have a lot to contribute and to water as they stand. If they merge or if they separate or go differently, that's a different aspect. That's the first point. Second point is, of course, you appreciate we come from a political background. If another one also came up to stand, please don't hold him at bay. I have uncles, Adoko Nekion, Akena Adoko, great thinkers, great men. None of them were piggybacked by Milton Obote. They were there by their own right. Yes, because they had thought, they had a pattern, and they were in government, and they got there. So let's first draw that line that is
everyone is on their
there are rivers which are full of life, heading somewhere with a destination. But can they merge or separate is the first thing. Number 2, you spoke about maybe the political party of Uganda People's Congress. I'm looking at things this way. I don't think it's a contradiction. What we need to address is where are we going and how do we intend to go. Uhuru Kenyatta's father was KANU. to the bone. He has walked out of Kanu to form TNA. Corporate people call it rebranding or repackaging, whatever you want to do, to get to a destination. Yes, where he is today, he does not at any point undermine Kenyatta or what Kenyatta did or did not do. Actually, he's actually now taking it even further. There is a Moses who began a journey. There is a Joshua who finished the journey. I come as a Joshua. There's no contradiction. Don't worry about the political party or this. I have put in an application to the Electoral Commission to register a political party. Hopefully, in due course, if time allows, it comes out, they approve it. I would not want to speak about it before it's approved. But if not, the Constitution allows an independent. I will be there. As surely as day follows night, my name will be on the ballot.
The ballot paper.
Yeah.
Bishop Ed, you have not had the socialization, political or otherwise, in this country for such a time that you are able to create structures across the country that should be able to galvanize and consolidate votes for you. You are also contesting against somebody that has been in power for 30 years and has spent all this time trying to create a grassroots base. Where is your base? What's your base from which you think you'll spring and catapult yourself to this position of responsibility?
You know what I like most is you have failed to first appreciate that having survived an exile is a qualification.
Without a doubt. That's
you have told me about. You've spoken to me about everybody else's qualification and dismissed me that possibly I don't have a social base. But I've also done a bit of study. Most deliverances that come to countries, nations, and biblically come from outside, not from inside. It's never from within, it's always from without. The current president, for example, in the United States, His Excellency Barack Obama, when Barack began to say, yes, we can, they dismissed him. They totally dismissed him. I also know some African heads of state who even some called him, where is this monkey coming from? Well, he's now a two-time president of the United States of America. But Simon, I'm on the ground. You're certainly going to begin to hear more of what I have to share. I believe strongly that Uganda needs a foundational change, and there are a lot of things that need to be changed in how we approach our politics. Politics is a competition of ideas. I'm also going to present my ideas like every other candidate, and I'm trusting that the Ugandan people will be given an opportunity to judge. Voter apathy, where people are not voting, don't even bother to vote, or don't bother even to pick their cards, is because they lack vision. There's no vision. There's no corporate vision. I don't see myself voting. I don't see why I should vote. And you see, what did my vote do? It means nothing. So I'm coming from that background to bring expression in that area.
How about the whole adage of saying, look, if you're going to climb onto a building, you take a strut of a ladder by the height.
Yes.
You don't start from the branches to climb a tree.
By the fact that I'm a bishop and an overseer, I'm already at the top. So technically, taking me back down would be reversing the order. But on the other hand, a calling into purpose, irrespective of how you view it or not, would speak for itself. And I don't run because of an ambition that I would like to be seen as their burdens, their issues. There's a lot of issues. When you see the young people so jobless, have nowhere to express themselves, yet they live in a very rich country. I was in a computer cyber cafe recently, and I was having a problem trying to configure some of these aspects, and so I asked him to help me. And in the process, he told me, "Can you help me to go to United Kingdom?" And then I asked him, why would you want to go to United Kingdom? He says, I would like to go and maybe get a job and do something. Then I said, why don't you do something here? He says, well, look at what I do. Then I said, look at all the knowledge you have right now. Look at the beautiful land you have here in Uganda. Can't you see yourself package something and use the Google and search and research that is right before you and package something? And this fellow, as we kept talking, his eyes began to open. He could not see the possibility that he could take a photo, upload it, do some research on marketing into this very land and market a banana or a pineapple.
Exactly.
And take him to the same Europe which he wants to go. And rather than go as a refugee, go as a tourist on his own account and visit. He just couldn't see. So there's a difference between putting programs and having a vision. And one of the problems in Uganda, we have programs. Programs don't take people to destinations. You say 2032 we should be middle income. That is, you won't arrive. But a vision carries even the most lifeless, most helpless, most hopeless. And for that reason, please receive my invitation. You want to know who Bishop Engena is? come.
Is that where you will tell us whether it's a fundamental change and not a change of guard?
It is not a fundamental change, it is a foundational change. And I would like you to be there so that you can hear that burden that I have for this country and the vision that I would like to espouse to the people of Uganda. And on that basis, then we can begin to now share on whether you feel that probably this man...
You speak in local languages?
Yes. Sebo kugamba kunakweyo kusaba gwe ne mchala wo muje murire vision linya nina kugwanga yafe mu Uganda mbasaba bonna kasa munuriza nekati muje tubere wamu Uganda yafe ate bonafe tujja kubera wamu tugikoreko kati nze nsimba wo mbere mga embeze mu Uganda kati mbade saba mumpeka lulu kati kubo nzitadise ate ni kati neduka ku kulitukako.
That's a very brave attempt at speaking Luganda, not forgetting that of course you are half Muganda as well. Bishop Ed, as we conclude this program, what gives you a good laugh?
I'm a man full of laughter.
Do you ever get angry?
I used to, but since this man Jesus came into my life, that temperament has been reduced.
You don't take any alcohol anymore, but what would be your favorite dish?
I don't drink, I don't smoke. I enjoy good food. Doesn't matter where it comes from or where it is, as long as good food is cooked well. My wife is a wonderful cook, and she looks after me very well in that aspect. That aspect. I'm a social person. I live with and through people. I'm outgoing. I spend a lot of time with people. I love to laugh. I enjoy comedy. Laughter is my lifestyle.
Our quintessential desert island, this question comes your way now. If you were marooned on a desert island, I mean, you have gone through exile. Now, a desert island is nothing like exile. But you have a choice to carry with you one thing or one person. Who or what would that be?
One thing or one person. All I need and live for is that Jesus. And him with my Bible, I think we are more than enough.
Tremendous.
I can't do without him. I can't do without the person of the Holy Spirit who dwells in and with me. Through him I find my being, my expression, and I live for that. And that to me is the greatest gift that I have received.
Your mom must be a very proud mother.
Yes.
She may have 2 sons on the ballot paper for presidency.
Maybe 3.
Maybe even 3. Who knows?
4.
She possibly could also offer herself, because she's done before, offered herself for the presidency of this country.
Yes.
Your dad was a 2-term president.
Yes.
I mean, your children and your family, what do they think about this? I'm sure they say, go daddy,
yes,
go father.
Yes.
Unfortunately, like every good thing, this interview too has got to come to an end. Bishop Edward Stanley Engena-Maitum. We couldn't have had a better guest at this moment. At least now we know what it feels like for you to have lived as a president's son.
Yes,
we know what it means for you to have gone to exile twice. We know what it means to have lived a lifestyle that your otherwise honest daddy wasn't able to fulfill, because he lived for the people of Uganda, not so much for his sometimes obstinate children.
Yes.
But we'll allow you play your last song so that it concludes this program, and let our listeners get down and jiggy.
Thank you for having me on the program, and I've enjoyed myself being here. My last song is now absolutely now in my terrain, and that is the gospel. And I would like to request for No More Turning Back by Engena-Maitum. He's from South Africa, and the meaning of that song is not only in Christ are we not turning back, but are we not turning back in the vision and objectives that he has burdened us to do for our beloved country. And I trust that my friends out there, and those who know and those who don't know me, may join me. There are a lot of issues that burden us. There are a lot of difficulties. Africa is fully in debt. Uganda is in debt. Ugandans are in debt. We are all in debt, and we need to come out of this circle.
The doldrums
of debt, and it dehumanizes and takes away integrity and removes dignity of a person. And I believe I have something to offer, and I'm appealing to men of goodwill and of with the right hand of friendship to come and join me in building this nation and taking it further from where it is and where it could be.
Man, you are gifted with the gift of the tongue. Like I said earlier on, the apples don't necessarily fall far from their mother trees. Clearly, you have your dad's diction and your everything. Bishop Engena-Maitum.
Yes, sir.
It's been a pleasure having you on the show once again.
Thank you.
For your listeners who grace this show with your listening ears every Sunday evening, 7 to 8 p.m., we can't thank you more. 91.3 Capital FM is your fresh hit station, and Desert Island this shall return next week, same time, same place, with yet another inspirational and life-changing story, if you may. Have a good evening.
I